Hey, what's up guys? This is Gary and this is another video in the ESTEST migration series, and in this video I'm going to be showing how to back up and migrate the ESTEST discovery website that's powered by Drupal from the estest.ucdavis.edu server to the local host. This tutorial is going to involve quite a few steps that I'm going to be following from this text file, and I'll be sure to include at least a link of it in the comments below this video. So let's just go ahead and get started. The first thing we need to do is to download the Drupal source code, and you can do that from their website. You can download any of the recommended releases for the 7.x series, and we're just going to be working with 7.14. So I've already downloaded this. We're going to need to create a subdirectory to contain Drupal. So the default path that we're going to use is home www/discovery. So just create this subdirectory called discovery. Change directories to it, and we're going to unpack the Drupal source the Drupal sources here. So it's tar cxf, and that's the source code package that I previously downloaded. Okay, so we have that unpacked. The next thing that we're going to do is to copy over the static web assets for the discovery website, and that can be done using the scp command from the remote server. Okay, so we have those two subdirectories. So the next, we would configure MySQL to basically initialize the database and the user that we're going to use with this Drupal installation, but I won't assume that you have MySQL installed on the local host. So I'll just show you very quickly how to install a default MySQL server using Synaptic. It's very simple. All the packages you need is the client package here, and also the server package, which, if I can find it, it's here. So you just take those two and then you apply those changes, and it's going to ask you for the MySQL root user, and you can just put in whatever password you like. Okay, and then you could just wait for the MySQL to start to finish installing there. Okay, so that's finished installing. It's pretty easy to check if MySQL has installed and is running. You can do a ps-e to look for the MySQL daemon. For instance, it's right there. So we're gonna go ahead and start the MySQL command line tool to configure the database for ESTEST discovery on the local host, and that command is mysql-u root-p. It's going to ask for your password. That was what you entered previously, and so we're giving a MySQL command prompt here. So the first thing we want to do is to show what databases we have already. In this case, we don't have any other than the default databases because this is a new installation of MySQL. We want to create a database basically for discovery. So the command to do that is going to be create database, and we're going to call it ESTDisk. Okay, we can show databases again to see that that has been created. Generally, a good practice is to create a user that is going to be that's going to have all the privileges for this database, ESTDisk, but not all privileges on the entire SQL database in general. So that's just a little bit of security precaution. So to create a user, we're going to do the command create user ESTEST, that's the username, and then the host name, identified by, and then we're going to just enter in a password for this user. Okay, so now that that user is created, we need to grant all privileges on the database EST disk to ESTest at localhost, and that command is going to be grant all privileges on the database name dot star. So it recursively applies down, and then we put in the username. Okay, to make sure that works, we can execute the command show grants, and then for the user that we just applied the grants to. And we can see here that the user ESTest has usage on the entire database, and then all privileges on the EST disk database that is part of this MySQL server. So we can go ahead and exit MySQL now, and you can just use Control-D to do that. The next thing we want to do is to edit the Apache configuration file so it knows where basically the Drupal installation is. So the configuration we want to use for that is basically this one here, where we've set the aliases and then the directory commands to the appropriate paths in our localhost. And so if we copy that to configuration, and then we edit the configuration file for Apache, we can just use that as an include for that one. So we can go ahead and start the Apache web server. Or if it's already started, you can restart it as many times as you like. We're going to go to the localhost, and we're going to click on this discovery link, and it's going to go to localhost/disk. Okay, and you see here it's going to bring up the first time installation, the installation wizard for Drupal. So we're just going to go through this, and you can proceed with this installation if there aren't any errors. And on this database type, we're going to go with MySQL, and then we're going to enter in the details for our database. So remember, our database name was actually EST disk, and then the database username was going to be ESTest, and then you enter in that identified password, and you guys save and continue. Okay, so while that's working, in this list of instructions, we're basically on step 15 right here, going through the interactive installer for Drupal. And we just wait while Drupal does this initializations. Okay, so now we're going to enter in some default information for our new website. Save and continue there. Okay, so that's basically the Drupal installation complete for a fresh Drupal website. And so we can visit this website. It's going to be just basically the default Drupal website. And now we can begin the migration process for Drupal. So what we want to do first actually is to go to modules, and we're going to start enabling and installing some custom modules that we need for ESTest discovery. So the first thing we want to do is to enable the aggregator module, and we also want to enable the update manager. Okay, now that we've done those two things, we'll have a new option to say install new modules. And there are several modules we need to install, and I've listed them here. It's basically going to be Backup and Migrate, Chaos Tools or C Tools, LDAP, SMTP, and Views. I've got the links here. What you can do is basically go to there. Go to these links here that'll go to these web pages, and what you want to do is to copy the link address of the tar archive of the recommended releases for the module. So for example, Backup and Migrate, I'll copy that link in, and then I will go to modules at localhost, and then I will paste this in for install from a URL and say install. Okay, so we can enable this newly installed module, Backup and Migrate, for example, and then save the configuration again. Okay, and we're basically going to do the same thing for each of these. So this is C Tools. Don't actually worry about enabling all of them one by one. When we restore the migration from ESTEST, that'll be done automatically from the restoration process. So next is going to be the LDAP. Okay, and then SMTP. Okay, and then finally the Views module. Okay, having done all of this, it's probably a good idea to make sure that all these modules and our Drupal database in general is fully up to date. So what you want to do is to go to configuration and no, I guess we should enable a few of these modules because we want to get the configuration up to date. Okay, so if we now go to really? Okay, so I was expecting to do a little bit of updating for these scripts, but maybe that's not necessary. Can we do it from this way? Yes, okay, so this is basically the Drupal update mechanism. So just go ahead and click through this to see if there are any updates for these modules. And so there are no pending updates. If there were, just apply them. That's fine. So if we go back here, go back to modules, we should actually run cron as well. Okay, so if cron ran successfully, then that's fine. The next thing that we want to do is basically go to the ESTEST discovery Drupal that is on estest.ucdavis.edu, and we're going to sign on with the administrator account for that website. And then go to configuration, backup and migrate, and then we're going to just basically go backup now, and it's going to download a file, and we can see it right there. Okay, I mean, there's two of those there, so it's confusing which one we downloaded. Doesn't matter, we can just delete those two, and again, just have the one. Okay, so to restore this backup, we're going to go to configuration, backup and migrate, and now this is on the local host, not estest.ucdavis.edu. Go to restore, and then we go ahead and find that file that we just downloaded from ESTEST.ucdavis.edu, and we just click Restore Now. Okay, so this has basically restored the MySQL database from ESTEST.ucdavis.edu to the local host. So we can go ahead and quit this, and we see now that all the content is back, but the some of the appearances are not quite updated yet. So to update the appearance, we can go to the Appearance tab, and we want to edit the default theme for Bartik. And actually, the colors are all here. It's just that some of the paths have changed from the two servers, so we need to restore these two paths. So basically, one path is for the logo image, and you can find the logo for ESTEST Discovery in www.discovery static images and then ESTEST Discovery logo.png. And then the favicon for the shortcut icon, we can also get that, and that's at www.index, and we're going to use this favicon right here. So we can save this configuration and then quit this, and then we'll see that the appearance has been updated very well in this case. Okay, there's one more piece of configuration that we need to take care of before the migration is complete, and that's going to have to do with the LDAP server. So if we go back to modules on the local host, we're going to scroll down until we see the LDAP authentication module, and we're going to go to configure for that. We're going to go to the servers tab, and basically you see here that the default server for this is configured basically for the LDAP server from ESTEST.ucdavis.edu currently. So we want to edit this this server to be pointing at the LDAP server that we set up on the local host. And since it's a migration, they're very similar, we can edit this directly. All we need to do is to change the server IP address. Maybe the port has changed, for instance, as in this case, and then update again some of this information. You can leave those the same, and then you can click Update. Okay, so I'm not sure that changed it. No, that didn't change. So there is something going on here. Let me see if I can debug on the fly. Okay, so there was a problem with this Drupal installation, which is what I was actually expecting. We're going to have to resolve this problem with the installation before we can edit that configuration. So if we go back to configuration, if you see this message, click on status report, and then go to where the error occurs. It should recommend what you do, and then this is, again, we're going to need to update. There's 25 pending updates here. We'll just apply those updates. Okay, so those updates are done. We can go back to the front page and then try to configure the LDAP server again. Again, scroll down to LDAP authentication, click Configure, go to the Servers tab, and then edit the server. Mainly what you're doing is changing the IP address and maybe the port, and then filling in some required information. And leaving all these basically the same. And we click Update. And you see here now it's updated to the new server address. We can test this actually by providing in a user that you know is part of the LDAP server, in this case, this username. And if you see no errors here, then that's basically working. Okay, so we can quit this. And at this point, the Drupal migration is basically done. We can, click around some links and make sure that everything is migrated properly in terms of all the assets and the static images and whatnot. You can test that the LDAP server is working if you log out of the admin account and then use again any user in the LDAP to log in. Okay, I just had the wrong password there. But yeah, they should be able to log in and then check their accounts as usual. Okay, so this video is a little bit long, and it's been showing you how to do the migration process for the ESTEST Discovery website and Drupal. The text instructions, I'll be sure to link and click for the next video. Thanks.